State of Decay flew under a lot of radars in 2013, and that's a real shame, although it's hard to blame someone for overlooking it. Even while being a stellar game, it's yet another entry into the already oversaturated zombie theme in the game industry. That being said, State of Decay proves that just because the theme has been overplayed, great gameplay and design can bring it back from the brink of death, or in this case, reanimate its twitching, bloated corpse. In State of Decay, you'll control survivors as they try to make a home in the newly infected Trumbull County. Most of your time will be spent wading through the droves of the undead to scavenge for supplies such as ammo, food, medicine, and building materials. Although it sounds rather simple, the game features a level of complexity that is something to be admired. While in a gameplay sense the game is very simple, basically kill zombies and get supplies, you'll also spend your time building up your base of operations, establishing outposts, leveling skills, and helping out fellow survivor camps. For instance, when you get some extra building supplies, you can choose what to do with them. Will you build extra sleeping quarters for your growing population, or will you build a workshop to produce IEDs and other useful tools? The game leaves this and many other decisions up to you. You'll even have granular control over the survivors themselves too, such as deciding which weapons they'll specialize in and choose which special abilities they will develop. The game plays well overall, but there are a few caveats worth noting. For instance, there are survey points that you'll use to get a lay of the land and spot potential scavenging locations and dangers. These are sometimes rather tedious as you have to aim and point your camera at each individual point of interest to mark it on your map and learn more about it. While this is okay at first, after doing it a handful of times you'll wish it worked more like the Assassin's Creed synchronization points and just lets you hit a button to survey the entire area. While on the topic of survey points, it's also kind of annoying how they are filtered in with your missions and activities while cycling through the active quests on your map. Call me crazy, but I think I'd rather go do a mission that saves one of my supply runners from being eaten before I go sightseeing at a survey point. Speaking of the map, or the minimap actually, it would be nice if your current home base was always displayed on the ring of the minimap. I'd feel it'd be much more beneficial to always know where my HQ is rather than knowing which way is north. Or better yet, knowing both would be awesome. The game is also very dark, and I don't mean that just in a substance kind of way. I mean there are parts of the game where it is almost impossible to see unless you have the gamma turned all the way up. Another complaint is that many of the survivors are very similar. I can only imagine how difficult it is to make a variety of personalities in a game like this, but most of them will deliver the exact same lines in the exact same way as every other survivor you play. And in some cases, two very different people can have the exact same voice actor. For instance, Marcus Campbell is the first survivor you play. When you hear his exact same voice and lines coming out of another character, it makes Marcus seem less special and unique.
Kiss my ass.
Continuing down the list of complaints, sometimes it feels as if you're being bombarded with activities and missions. While there are only a handful that will actually advance the story, there are often so many things being thrown at you at once that you often feel confused on which ones you should actually be doing. It seems like every time you finally get all the side missions complete and you're ready to continue with the story, 3 more side activities will pop up. Although it's really hard to harp on this too much, as there's too much to do, doesn't really seem like a valid complaint for a lot of gamers. But perhaps the biggest flaw the game has is with its bugs. Most notoriously, the NPC AI, or non-player character artificial intelligence. Oftentimes your mission will be to escort someone from point A to point B. While they are largely able to take care of themselves in combat, oftentimes they will just stand still when you need them to move, not shoot a zombie that is attacking you, or in some cases cause you to have to shut down and restart your game just because they wouldn't follow you to the next mission objective. Needless to say, this is rather frustrating since the game doesn't save during missions. There's been more than one time that I've had to carefully push idle NPCs towards an objective in the hopes that getting them close enough will complete the mission. With all that complaining out of the way, let me take a moment and say that for every issue State of Decay has, it does 3 other things very well. For instance, the game has an expertly crafted soundtrack that perfectly fits the game in every way. While home with friends, you're treated to light-hearted acoustic guitars, and while in the thick of combat, you'll be driven by the high-tempo drums and industrial sounds. It's also impressive how much detail and variety they managed to fit into this small mountain town setting. There are grocery stores, gun shops, mom-and-pop stores, and a plethora of other places to explore. While there are large stretches of empty field in the game that don't seem to serve much of a purpose gameplay-wise, they still feel natural in the setting of Trumbull County. State of Decay has a lot to keep you entertained throughout the game. You'll recruit people, piss other people off, and even put down the sick ones. State of Decay may be straddling the line of what it means to be a true indie, but it certainly shows plenty of indie spirit with its high level of innovation and ingenuity. While I'd love to give the game a perfect score, I simply can't in good conscience do that with all its glaring technical problems. Is State of Decay a good game? Absolutely. Is it worth the $20 price tag? Sure. Will you likely wait for a Steam sale and pick it up for $10? Most likely. Either way, State of Decay is definitely a worthwhile investment, even at $20. Now if they could just get that darn AI fixed. State of Decay gets a 4 out of 5.